Good evening, all. Hello, and welcome to tonight's Arboricultural Association Wednesday webinar. My name is John Parker. I'm the CEO at the association and your host for this evening. As always, please say hello in the chat. Let us know where you're watching from. Tonight's speaker is Chris Knapman, guiding us through a year among the trees. And before that, as promised, we're going to be showing a pre-recorded session that we did with the Green Legacy Hiroshima project. There was a Q&A and discussion after we recorded the webinar, but that took like an hour in total. So tonight we're just going to show the presentation bit. And then on the website, as normal, when we put the presentations up, we'll have the whole thing. So you'll be able to watch the whole thing with the Q&A and all that stuff when you look at it online. Sorry, I'm slightly tired. I just got back to the UK this morning, so I'm slightly zonked out. But hey, it's okay. I'm a professional. No one will tell. So yes, that's good. So we're going to have that in a minute. Then after tonight, we've got a couple of weeks off, but we'll then be returning on January the 7th. Now, there's nothing been promoted for that week yet. I'm 95% sure I know who's going to be speaking, but we're just waiting for a little bit of confirmation from our speakers that they can do that week. So hopefully that'll happen. If it doesn't, then there'll be something equally fabulous lined up. So don't panic. But the main thing is there will definitely be a webinar. So we'll be restarting the series on January the 7th. We look forward to you joining us for that. Then throughout January and February, we've got lots of stuff lined up. We've got webinars from Jim Mulholland, Harry Studholme, Tony Kirkham and Kenny Rogers. I wanted to say Kenny Rogers, who is, of course, one half of the greatest musical duet of all time. But we won't go into that now. The last one of the season will be Ted Green and Friends, because obviously we can't have a webinar series without Ted. So without further ado, we're going to go straight into our presentation from Green Legacy Hiroshima. There's probably no point submitting many questions for this one because our speakers aren't here because it's silly o'clock in the morning in Japan. But if you've got any comments or anything you want to send in, please do, and I'll make sure the chat and the Q&A gets to them anyway. And on the full version, like I say, I ask some questions, so you'll be able to see the answers to those if you watch it on YouTube afterwards. So I will hand over to Andrew. Let's see if we can make this work.
Let me start with the Peace Park view.
And explain what we're looking at here, just so that the people watching can know what they're seeing.
The first thing to note is that we have a delta and the Hiroshima is surrounded by mountains and you can see them. That was one reason it was chosen on the list for the atomic bombing. On a more pleasing note, I would say that we are looking maybe at what saved Hiroshima's identity, the Hiroshima Peace Memorial Park and Museum. It's the masterpiece of the great Japanese modernist architect, Kenzo Tange. We see right ahead of us, we see the Peace Memorial Museum, designed, 1949. So you can imagine how well it has aged. You see the pond, the water of peace, and the cenotaph, which is where the names of all the victims are put. The flame of peace, and way behind in the background is the atomic bomb dome, a World Heritage Site, UNESCO World Heritage Site. And all the trees that you see came after. They were donations because Hiroshima was so broke and so poor. They didn't even have seeds and saplings to green the park. When they made an appeal, they received seeds and saplings, not just from all over Japan, but from all over the world. So it's a very unique urban park in Japan just for the diversity of the trees. Beyond the atomic bomb trees, Hiroshima has this other legacy just of greenery emerging from this atomic desert, this gray desert. So this is a very iconic place, and I think it's probably one of the most successful war memorials that live in the very center. This is still the very center and heart of Hiroshima.
It's incredible. Thank you so much. And what a view, and what a powerful view as well.
So my name is Nassrine Azimi, and I am the co-founder and coordinator of Green Legacy Hiroshima. I was basically an international civil servant all my career, working for the UN Institute for Training and Research. And about a decade and a half ago, I got to learn about Hiroshima's survivor trees, and I got to understand that people right after the war had kept record of these, and I joined with a friend of mine, Tomoko Watanabe. We created this Green Legacy Hiroshima in 2011. And here is the team, the very small team of Green Legacy. Mariko?
Hello, my name is Mariko. I'm a focal point of the Green Legacy, of the Secretariat for the Green Legacy Hiroshima. I'm in charge of the communication with the regional hubs and each partners when we dispatch the seeds from Hiroshima. Thank you.
Okay, Sophie?
Hello, my name is Sophie Qano. I'm the Oberlin Chauncey Fellow at Green Legacy Hiroshima, and I work on keeping the website updated. So every time we have a new partner or our partners send us photos of the growing seedlings, I have the pleasure of putting them up on our website and sharing with our global partners.
Okay, well, thank you for having us. This has been many years in the works, but I think it was particularly significant that we can do this on the 80th commemoration year of the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. I hope the webinar participants had a glimpse of the city that came back really from zero, from ground zero, because this where we are and what you saw was the central part of Hiroshima. It was the Manhattan of Hiroshima. It was filled with homes and workshops and restaurants and ryokan and people coming. Hiroshima is a river city. It's a little bit like actually Amsterdam. We compare it to Amsterdam. And so people would just glide here at night with the boats and go to the shops and restaurants. All that vanished. 90% of the central Hiroshima buildings disappeared. Whatever was in wood, and that was the majority of buildings, disappeared. And so the very fact that you have this city living again and having such a powerful presence. I think a lot of people know about Hiroshima, even those who don't particularly follow nuclear weapon debates. I would always like to insist there is also Nagasaki, maybe one of the most beautiful cities in Japan, for all sorts of reasons, and this is not the place to talk about it, maybe. But Nagasaki is often relegated to a second place or just ignored or forgotten. People like to say, oh, Hiroshima is so important because it was the first city that was atomic bombed. And we like to say that Nagasaki is just as important because it has to be the last city ever to be atomic bombed. So there's a lot of politics and history behind that, but Nagasaki also is wonderful, but its situation with regard to the survivor trees is quite different because the bomb fell to the side. Nagasaki's topography is very different from Hiroshima. So the devastation was not the same. So this should give you a sort of image of the density. This is basically roughly around where we are. It's a series of drawings by one of the survivors who meticulously and often from memory reproduced sheets and sheets of the buildings around Hiroshima. And you can see the darker building is the atomic bomb dome. And below to my right, you see sort of the kind of active and busy streets that Hiroshima was before the bombing. The bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki is often referred to as, the mushroom clouds. And one of my friends, Tomoko Watanabe, likes to always say, we only have pictures of the mushroom clouds from above, what it meant to be below, beneath these mushroom clouds. And it was 3,000 to 4,000 degrees heat, the blast, then the fire, and then the radiation, and then the black rain. I mean, it was one catastrophe after another. It is no wonder that almost nothing survived in the center of the city. This is an image of Hiroshima after the bombing. This is also not far from where we are, actually, closer to the castle area. This is Hiroshima Castle. You can start seeing the figures of the other living beings, because not just humans, but many other living beings also disappeared. You see the lush trees. As I mentioned, Hiroshima is a delta. It is a pretty humid climate, and many camphor trees and much greenery of the humid areas of Japan were here. And this is what was left. The castle, of course, disappeared, and many of the trees that existed burnt out. Now, currently, there are about only 4 or 5 trees in the castle area that we know for sure were atomic bomb trees. This is the iconic UNESCO World Heritage Site in the picture below, and above is as it was built by a Czech architect. One reason that dome survived is because it was almost directly under the blast. The blast did not hit ground. It was 580 meters above ground, and it was one of the rare buildings that had this steel roof, and the pressure was such that rather than blasting away, the pressure of the bomb pushed the steel roof further in, and that's why it was still standing. And in a way comparable to the remainder of the towers after New York City attacks on 9/11. It was the tallest building in Hiroshima, so many people who came back into the city to look for their loved ones, that was a sort of a reference point. The rebounding of Hiroshima is a whole webinar and a whole story. Just the moral, the psychological, the political, the financial, the social, the emotional ability for the city, and all that was done, that Hiroshima and Nagasaki ended up having special funds actually to rebuild. Otherwise, the American occupation did not want to talk about Hiroshima and Nagasaki as being different from the many other cities, tens of cities that had been firebombed during the last months of the war. So Hiroshima and Nagasaki had to do a lot to be able to get some funding, because they were totally broke, and because in the case of Hiroshima, the center of the city was entirely destroyed. So they had really no tax base, nothing on which to build. And this is one of my heroes, one of my political heroes. It's Mayor Hamai, who was the post-war mayor of Hiroshima, and whose role in helping Hiroshima revive is really a very beautiful story. But I won't linger there, so we can get to the trees. So rebuilding not just lives, but houses. People had no homes. Until the 60s, actually, there were lots of slum areas in Hiroshima by the riverbanks, shacks. But very quickly, they decided on the rebuilding of a Peace Memorial Park. You would think that it's extraordinary that after such a catastrophe, they had the foresight to think about such a massive project. But the Peace Memorial Park, almost 4-kilometer Peace Avenue, and the green belt of the riverbanks were 3 unbelievably important projects for the rebuilding and revival of Hiroshima. So again, I won't linger too much, but it's something to keep in mind, how these visionary ideas just allowed the city, not transform necessarily, just allowed it to live again. It wouldn't have been able to live otherwise. And this is the masterpiece. This is the Peace Memorial Park from the other side. But you can see that even till the early 50s, when it was completed, it was surrounded by radioactive ash. There were cemeteries and graveyards around it. So the images are amazing. Actually, Hiroshima City has an archive of photos that in and of themselves are masterpieces. And this is, again, the museum, now seen from the opposite side of what we saw from the north, looking south and looking towards the inland sea, which is about 2 kilometers further south. The question that rose for Hiroshima applies to the A-bomb survivor trees as well, because the message of Hiroshima is dual. There are two messages, and Green Legacy Hiroshima always insists too that we have two messages. That, the caution and destruction and the dangers of nuclear weapons. Currently, there are 12,240 nuclear weapons, close to 2,000 of them on trigger hair alert, which is a very scary name, but also the hope in the recovery of Hiroshima. And the trees, the A-bomb survivor trees, which we call Hibaku Jumoku, Hibaku meaning A-bomb, Jumoku tree, and the human version is Hibaku A-bombed, Hibaku Sha is person. So Hibaku Sha and Hibaku Jumoku, both living beings, and both Hiroshima and the trees give this dual message: caution of the threats and hope in recovery and hopes for peace. So how did these trees even, how were they even kept track of? I think one of the miracles, at least for me, is not just the trees that survived, but actually that people kept track of them very early on. In the case of Hiroshima, it wasn't a formal list, but little by little, people had sort of collecting the names and recording what tree had been where. And this had to be verified either by photos or archives or personal testimony. So there had to be some way of saying, look, this tree was there before the bombing in my school, in this temple, in this shrine. But a lot of trees were on public areas. Nagasaki has more trees that are in private homes. Hiroshima did have quite a few trees that were on public lands. And the way the Hiroshima city has designated A-bomb trees is trees that survived the atomic bombing within a 2-kilometer radius of the hypocenter. So there's some trees that fall slightly outside. There's some trees that are inside but are not registered because there's no way to prove. There have been no DNA tests because, as you know, it's something that will be immensely costly, and at least for now, it's not a possibility. But roughly about 170 trees. By the time Green Legacy Hiroshima started, there were about 170 trees that were registered by Hiroshima City as A-bomb survivor trees. Today, there are actually not even 160. One more died since this slide was prepared. 159 trees are designated by Hiroshima City as A-bomb trees. They're roughly in 55 locations at the 2-kilometer radius of the hypocenter. I do want to refer quickly to Nagasaki as well. Nagasaki does have kusunoki. Kusunoki means camphor. So because one of the oldest trees in Nagasaki is a magnificent 1,000-year-old camphor tree that survived in a temple. And so Nagasaki does have a project to protect and safeguard its trees. For now, it has not translated into an initiative to share the seeds. But the day that happens, our dream at Green Legacy Hiroshima is wherever there is a tree from Hiroshima, there should be a tree also from Nagasaki, because it just makes so much symbolic sense. But for now, we're not there yet, but we haven't given up. Just a glimpse of a few of the survivor trees. You saw the image of Hiroshima Castle. This eucalyptus tree is the largest tree. It's a very tormented tree. The branches have gone in all sorts of directions. It had not given seeds for decades. We had a query from Australia for a very beautiful project involving eucalyptus trees. And Mariko has been working with our master gardener, Horiguchi Sensei, to see if we can get some seeds from this tree. Last year we did, but they did not survive. We're going to try again this year. It's a very, very damaged and vulnerable tree, but you can see even today, it's a very impressive tree. This is Weeping Willow. The original tree is actually the dead branch you see on the left of this picture. But from that trunk, a new tree was born. And so the city has kept the designation of an A-bomb tree. I would like to emphasize that of the 159 trees that are alive today, only about 30 of them are in the exact same location as they were at the time of the bombing. Rebuilding the city, putting on the roads and parks and buildings implied that some of the A-bomb survivor trees had to be moved around. It's a miracle that they were moved around with enough care that people still managed to keep them alive, keep a plaque. A few years ago, thanks to our local Rotary, the Tonan Rotary, we had a whole initiative of calculating again where the trees were, having beautiful new plaques with explanations and barcodes. But the 30-some trees that are exactly in the same location have all a structure of bending towards the hypocenter. And the reason for that is the side of the tree directly exposed to the blast and the radiation remained quite weak for a number of years. So, and the other side grew at a more normal pace. So the tree is slightly bent towards the hypocenter. And as our friends say, they are in prayer towards the hypocenter. But that has been a subject of research by a group of scientists at Tsukuba University. And it's and I think we had many scientists and visitors coming to see the trees, and it's wonderful to be in their company because they can spend 2 hours under every branch because for them there is so much to see. None of us are tree specialists, so it's wonderful to be able to see how they observe, because of course these trees have a lot to say. We really don't know why they survived, why these trees survived. Was it a question of their species? Was it a question of their location? So many questions that remain unanswered. And of course, this is our most majestic trees. I wonder if these are not the seeds that we send, the ginkgo. So this is the mother tree. She is the mother tree for practically all of the other trees, except for 1 or 2 of the camphor trees. This is one of the oldest trees. She's about 300 years old. It's a massive and beautiful ginkgo. Probably there are a few ginkgo, maybe they just simply do better with fires. So quite a few ginkgo have survived after the bombing. This one is almost bent 45 degrees. You can slightly see it. We are really surprised it has not toppled over, but she continues to give a lot of seeds. And actually last week, we got some we got some seeds, and maybe we can send a photo so you can see a fresh batch of seeds just picked from this one tree. And this is our group a few years ago. So every year we pick up seeds. This is with the ginkgo, with the famous ginkgo. And everyone in the community can join, but usually it's the core team of Green Legacy Hiroshima. And here we are, I think this was 2024, and there is one kaki tree, persimmon tree, which is very productive. You can see here, and you see in this photo our master gardener, who we call him the tree whisperer. Master Horiguchi, and he just, he studied economics at the university, and then saw the great majestic trees in Yakushima Island, Yakushima now, Yaku Island, and fell in love with the great 2,000-year-old trees, and decided he was going to dedicate his life to trees. And he moved to Hiroshima and discovered the A-bomb trees and has been caring for them for decades. So seed picking is our favorite season. Here we have the kurugane mochi, which is the kurugane holly, the holly tree, the famous Christmas tree, and that's coming up in 2 weeks. We're going to go for a seed picking. And here we are. That's our team with our master gardener. It's really a very light footprint. And so let me just briefly say how we manage to send seeds now. 41 countries, more than 150 partners, and rising. We don't accept every request, or we try to ask our partners to have their partners, because we simply cannot keep up with all of it. But we have a mechanism that is wonderful. And I will come back to our regional hub, which is one of our main regional hubs is in the UK. But this is our latest regional hub, the University of Costa Rica. Costa Rica, not just for its work on salvaging its nature, but for its peace stance, has been a wonderful partner. And we are very happy this year to have a regional hub. The idea of regional hub that became obvious, especially during COVID. One of the most difficult things for us is processing the seeds and sending them one by one for every request. By creating these regional hubs, we have partially solved that problem. We send the seeds to the regional hubs, who have much more facility in dispatching the seeds for the requests once we process a request. This is one partner in Rwanda. Rwanda, needless to say, with the horrible genocide there in the 1990s, has tried to come back, and its nature as well. And we have a very important partner there doing peace work. And so this is CAFRE, College of Agriculture, Food and Rural Enterprise. They have been absolutely essential. David Dowd and his team have been, dispatching seeds, not just all over the UK, but also all over Europe. And I think they had a very special planting at a castle last September. But they involve their young students, which is the best thing for us also in terms of the next generation. How do we reach out to the next generation? So the work that CAFRE does is really very precious. Another partner in the UK. We have many partners in the UK. There's a lot of sensitivity to the issue of nuclear weapons and, of course, gardens and trees. So this is, Keele University, and Dr. Taylor is doing amazing work there. This was another very beautiful project, recent project in God, Manchester. So a whole community came together through their church. They had an event, they had a planting, and So every way that we can talk about this connection between the trees and peace, I think, has been very special for Green Legacy. We do have this ongoing project with Kew Gardens, the Millennium Seed Bank. Millennium Seed Bank is starting to collect all the species from Hiroshima. So every year we send them a few different species. I don't have the latest update, but needless to say, like then we think that these seeds and these trees need to be kept in some way for all of posterity. Our other very active partner is the San Diego Botanic Garden. They deal with all of North America. They have also done a tremendous job. The most recent projects they were involved in was planting at the UN headquarters in New York, 2 beautiful persimmon trees, and more importantly, even at the Manzanar internment camp, which is the camp where all the Japanese Americans went interned during the war. And they created a garden in the middle of this really harsh landscape in Northern California inland. So it's really almost terrifying climate. They created a garden, and now this garden has continued, and the descendants of Hiroshima's trees have been planted there as well. These are Chinese parasol trees, phoenix trees. They are actually 2 mother trees and 1 baby that was found close by. So 3 of them have been brought to the same place. And they have a particular symbolism in the Peace Park because the woman who, Suzuku Numata, who was almost killed at the atomic bombing, lost her leg, lost her fiancé, lost her hope, always wrote that she basically abandoned suicidal ideas when she saw the greenery of the Polenia, blue Polenia, the phoenix tree. And so she then dedicated her life to talking to young students about these they call them in Japanese aogiri, these Chinese parasol trees. So Hiroshima, both a symbol and a physical place. When all the hibakusha, the A-bomb survivors have gone, when we have all gone, some of these trees will still be living. The ginkgo, the camphor, they can live for 1,000 years. So in a way, they will be our messengers as well. They're not just the messengers of memories of the atomic bombings, witnesses, companions to the human survivors, but they're also our message of hope for the future. And this is one of the most beautiful groves. I will take you directly there because it is only 500 meters from the hypo center. For some reason, about 12 trees survived of different species. It's quite miraculous. We had some scientists from Salk Institute and San Diego Botanic Garden visiting a few years ago. And when I asked them this question, I said, we still don't know. It's a very busy area, cars passing, festivals around them. They wrap them up in metal to have lamps during festivals and Christmas time. And I asked, why are they so flourishing? And one of the scientists just answered right off the bat, because they're together and their roots are sustaining each other. And I think there must be some truth to that, because they are thriving. They are thriving still.
Thank you. That feels like an appropriate note to finish on. I just want to say, Mariko, Nassrine, Sophie, it's inspirational work. The 3 of you are amazing. The project is fantastic, and it's just been a complete privilege for me to be able to spend a bit of time with you chatting about this. I'm sure our viewers will feel the same. we want this to be the start of a conversation, don't we? We've already talked about we want to get some articles in our magazine, find ways that the Arboricultural Association we can work together somehow. So I'm hoping our viewers will be hearing a lot more about this soon. But what an introduction to your work. Thank you all so much. I really appreciate it.
Okay, so as I said at the end there, thank you to Nassrine, Mariko, and to Sophie. It is a great project. And I hope you enjoyed that presentation. If you do want to show some love and appreciation, obviously they're not watching now, but we will send them the chat. So please do feel free to give your thoughts in there. And I should point out that in this pot just behind me is Hiroshima ginkgo. I've got about a dozen of them out in my back garden in pots, and they'll be planted out in the Stonehouse Community Arboretum. So we're one of the partners here as well. Anyway, brilliant. Thank you for watching that and enjoying that. And thank you to our presenters. And I will now hand you over to the man himself, Chris Knapman, for his almost now traditional Christmas webinar. Chris, it's over to you.
Thanks very much, John, and good evening to you all from a rather damp Scotland tonight. So, yes, a year among the trees. Well, to give you just a little bit of context, it's been a busy old year, 2025. In 2023, I was diagnosed with myeloma, a kind of blood cancer, and I had some chemo. And in 2024, I had more chemo and a stem cell transplant. But in 2025, I'm in remission and unrestricted. So I've got out and seen quite a lot of trees. And so, yeah, I'd like to thank, first of all, the ARB community for their support during the treatment, in particular my mates in Devon, Matt, Aaron and Bob. And I want to look very much at, why trees give us hope, moving on from Hiroshima. So I'd like to follow on from that and talk about the hope that trees give us and the seasonal connections. I put some themes up the side. I'm not going to read all that out to you, but you get the idea. But, apart from the support of our... So we're talking about nature connectedness, all the benefits that trees give us. And I thought I might do sort of a bit of a calendar, like an image per month, and then it turned into a story per month, and then it kind of grew a bit. I apologize in advance for my appalling editing. There's far too much stuff in here, but we'll have to skip over some. You can read some of the boxes, you can look at the pictures, and you can listen to my attempts to pull it all together. But we're looking at tree connections here, and I've got some quotes up here. Nothing existed without 1,000 connections to the world. For her, the world was rich with meaning and alive with delight. And this is the sort of benefits that connecting with trees, seeing trees can give us. It's no wonder people wander around with things over their ears and in their ears, shut out from the world around them. When the news is just full of the very worst of human activity, and and we're faced with relentless marketing. But the trees can give us a real peace, can't they? So I've got that quote from Philip Pullman about Lara seeking her imagination. And the tree I featured, just to illustrate this, is the Argyll Street ash, which is a tree of hope, particularly because it's an urban tree. It's standing on its own. This tree arrived in 1855 in a bunch of primroses collected on holiday as a wee sapling, and it was planted out. It's the only tree in the street. And this is the Argyll Street ash, and it's up for, so this is a tree among the year. And yes, please vote for it. It would be great to have a UK tree become European Tree of the Year, and voting begins on the 2nd of February. It's only for a few weeks. So acknowledgement to David Traynor of Treewise, who nominated the tree. So this is just to kick us off and introduce things. The other quote there: we need things we can't explain, things we can't prove, or else we die of suffocation. Although I'm scientifically trained, I think sometimes the science gets in the way of really seeing and observing nature. So I just wanted to put that thought out. So let's just start off now with I last talked to you in January at the beginning of the year, and this is, and we'll pick it up there. So learn how to see, realize that everything connects to everything else. Leonardo da Vinci. At the beginning of the year, I'm walking out with Kevin Frediani, an old friend, and my local hill here is capped with snow, like a wee Christmas cake there. Down in the woods, we observed hair ice, which is created by moisture escaping and freezing from decaying wood. So this is on the woodland floor. This is from that tiny detail you can see. By the track, an old rowan is regenerating and rejuvenating with young sprouts as the rest of the tree declines, but in the meantime provides habitat. By the shores of Loch Lomond, the low winter sun is sort of lighting up the Scots pine there. For a lot of people, winter is, a bit of a depressing time, but actually I don't mind it. I embrace the darkness. It's a time for rest and reflection and recharging, if you like. The tree in the bottom centre is the Frandy Ash. This tree is featuring on the Country File calendar, I believe, this year as the winning shot. That one's got Northern Lights on. This one hasn't, but it's got the snow there. But so another ash tree which is featured prominently, because I mean a lot of people had written off the ash tree with no real evidence really. Although it's been significant ash dieback, it still continues to be mismanaged. But there's a lot of hope, which I always thought there would be. Meanwhile, in the top of the Douglas fir, a redwing is sitting. And on a visit to see some red kites locally, I was photographing a buzzard, and in came the red kite over the top of it. So I was quite pleased with that one. But in February, I went to Braemar, up in the Cairngorms, to the Linn of Dee, and it's -3.5, totally still. And this is the beautiful light you can actually get in the winter. You can see the frost on the banks there. Icicles, a birch growing out of a rock beside the track there by the bridge. And the light on the moss was just, iridescent, the beautiful light. So winter is a time of great joy. There's still a lot to see, even though we might think nature is sleeping. And while we were waiting for the red kites to appear, there were some lovely tree sparrows with the little brown heads and black patches on their cheeks. This is a rare bird in England, but it's a bit more common in Scotland. Indeed, I had some in my old garden, and Aaron was visiting me. He said, "Oh, that's the first tree sparrow I've ever seen." I said, "Blimey, I didn't realise we had tree sparrows. I just assumed they were all house sparrows. I hadn't looked at them that closely, so it just goes to show." So that's just a little winter gallery to start us off. But my tree for January is the Darnley Sycamore. And this one was smacked hard by Storm Eowyn, as you can see, and perhaps needs a little bit of sensitive reduction to maintain more of the tree. Although in the bottom middle picture, you can see coming from an old wound, and trees respond generally better to natural breakage and chainsaws because they didn't evolve with them. You can see that there are branches coming off here, but also stems. So a bit of morphophysiology there. There's a close-up on the right there. This tree, interestingly, was saved from the tram line and then the dual carriageway by two generations of the same family. So, the Darnley Sycamore. And that's in Glasgow. And you can see, even if it was to lose all its top, it could still potentially resprout from the bottom and regenerate, just as the sycamore gap tree is. And here you can see the delamination, the white rot from polyporous squamosus, and there's a fragment of that on the ground. So moving to February, and I'm down in Devon, and this isn't supposed to be self-indulgent. It's about sharing the trees with you, really, and hoping that you enjoy them. So here's a Devon sycamore. Scotland's brilliant for sycamores, but this is one of my old friends in Devon. A beautiful sycamore in a bit of old Devon landscape here. But if you look top right and bottom right, you can see, while I was looking for that tree, I passed by another tree, and this is an oak tree which has actually grown around a pole stage sycamore, so the oak tree has managed to prop itself. So how cool is that, eh? These are some of the details you see when you start looking. But I was just getting in the van to disappear, and this kestrel sat on a tree, so I was able to wind the electric window down and get a good shot of him on the sycamore. And nearby in the churchyard, the eternal yew. So we've got a quote from Goethe here. which is all about tree time. And you can see how highly sectoral the yew is. The wood is almost fluid, and you can potentially have a decaying central core of the old tree, but you could have a number of young trees in effect growing around that core, which enables the yew to regenerate and have lots of different individual functional units. So it's got a really good toolkit for potential immortality, really. So travelling back from Devon to Scotland, I stopped off at, I had to go and see this one. I pulled off the M6, went to Cannock Chase to see, well, treebeard or maybe Groot. There's a wee story there about Groot. But yeah, fantastic and inspiring tree just for its form. So sometimes it's the form of the tree which inspires us. So going from sort of early March in Cannock Chase, I went to Namibia and I took an interest in camelthorn trees. And top left is a lone tree beside June 45 in the Namib. There's also trees from the very famous Dead Vley. This is the oldest desert in the world, and these trees are 900 years old, dead and standing. So it's a dead wood park, which is fantastic, isn't it? 'Cause we quite like our dead wood here for the habitats it provides for wildlife. You can see top right that there's a little open woodland of camelthorn trees, and unlike our rather shallow-rooted trees, these can go to 46 meters depth, I understand, to get water. And there's a phoenix camelthorn there on the right. We were quite fortunate. There'd been more rain than they'd had in 12 years, and you can see the greenness top right there. So we actually even had water in the desert. But they also grow in floodplains, and these look like they've died off, so maybe these have suffered from too much water, would you believe? And here's some detail of the tree itself. In the top pictures, you can see the flower and the leaves and the bark, and the sort of earlobe-shaped fruit, so hence Acacia area loba. But on the camelthorn I was looking at, there were two different types of leaf, and the bottom pictures show that, and this is Cape mistletoe. So this is a southern hemisphere mistletoe growing on camelthorn. So I did a bit of ecology on it. You often get the sociable weaver's nest, which can house up to 400 birds. The top center picture is a Cape sparrow nest, and there's the female and the male. I found a cream-striped owl moth at the base of one tree. Bottom left, cicadas. Cape sparrows love chasing those around. They're good source of food. And a lone tree near June 45 in the car park, there was a lanner falcon descended, and sometimes you get the pygmy falcons picking off snakes which try to raid the sociable weaver nest. I don't know if the lanner does that, but anyway, nice to see one. A pied crow. And while I was in Namibia, I was desperate to see some quiver trees. There's 3 species. This is the most common, Aloidendron dichotomum. We found a nice little group of 3. In southern Namibia, there is a, this is not my picture, this is from Hans Stieglitz from Wikipedia, but there's a group of 200, this is a world-class treescape of 200 of these in southern Namibia, which unfortunately I wasn't able to get and see, but I saw some, which was nice. And it's used for landscaping, of course, as well. Also in Namibia, got to see the petrified forest. These are pine trees which were washed down in a storm in a river, originally in Europe, but then found its way to the southern hemisphere as the plates moved. But this is from these are apparently pine trees from washed down the river about 260 million years ago. But also near the petrified forest, we had the endemic plant where you also get it in Angola, but the Welwitschia, which has a crown and 2 leaves, but often has the appearance of having more leaves because they tend to get a bit shredded. So that's the, and you get male and female cones on those, and probably beetle pollinated. And I gather you can cook the cones. They call it the onion of the desert. But it's being a protected species, I don't think you necessarily want to do that unless you rely on it. So back home in Scotland, and I'm staking out a field trip for the Scottish branch. A peacock's woken up from hibernation and is nectaring on a wild cherry. The oak in the top picture, top center picture, clearly it's hollowed out, it's lost its top. This is in April. The picture on the right is the same tree in May. So the tree is totally rejuvenated and become a young tree again. We have a lovely bit of river near us, the River Devon, and one stretch of it is quite savanna-like. And I've always liked to welcome back the house martins in April. This is a picture from a previous June showing the young sand martins, but always lovely to see those return. You notice the watermark there. Obviously, if you get a lot of rain in the summer, the water level comes up, of course, it can wash out the nest, so they are potentially vulnerable. Tree-related microhabitats, that's something we're going to be hearing more about in arboriculture in the near future. And these are some honeybees in a cavity and an old cherry I was inspecting near Edinburgh. And bottom right at Gargunnock, there was an old chestnut or oak stem section and a rather sculptural seeding of 2 hemlocks there and a birch in the middle, I believe, as well. So the trees have actually seeded themselves into this old section of tree, which I thought was rather nice. So towards the end of April, apart from doing wacky things with trees, I'm also involved with the Beltane Fire Society and the Beltane Fire Festival on Calton Hill on April the 30th. So here's just some pictures of that. You can see an elm top left, just starting to leaf up. You can see Arthur's Seat and Salisbury Crags in the background. If you know Edinburgh, the Acropolis is an unfinished Napoleonic war memorial in the centre there. And these are fire sculptures we've made by from compressed paper soaked in fuel, put through a mangle, and then wire tied onto a grid to form. We're given these sort of designs, and we have to try and make them out of sections of this fire rope. So you can see one is a tree. The middle one's supposed to be a sort of seed leaves and an oak tree. And I think the other one might be the Circle of Life or something. But this is all about regeneration and fertility. It's a reimagining of a Celtic Iron Age festival. And top right, the regenerating ash tree, you can see that the original tree has disappeared, but now we have several trees to replace it as it is sort of coppiced. And this is just this is Diana nemorensis. The original May Queen, perhaps, if you read the Golden Bough. So May, Matt Shute was visiting. He's a bit of a globetrotter, but he'd never been to Scotland, so I wanted to show him a world-class Scottish treescape. This is Inchlenaig and Loch Lomond. We went there with some other people. 7 of us went there actually. And yes, the hawthorn, fantastic hawthorn. Japan has Sakura, but our Sakura really is the May blossom, which was outstanding this May, and the weather was perfect. Top middle picture is you've got the bluebells and a crabapple, which is being supported. It seems to be defying gravity, but it's leaning on a yew tree. But it's formed into 2 separate units, you can see, but it's also layered and rooted, creating a young tree. Just slightly out of picture there. On the shore of the island, you get these rather stunted trees because they're rather exposed. But bottom left, we have a big shore shoreline alder with a rowan growing in it. Bottom middle, we have a yew, and part of the stems collapsed, and the rowan has now colonized that. So the trees are interacting here. It's like an open air dendro laboratory, really, because the trees haven't been interfered, and we can study how they interact with one another. And on bottom right, we've got a hawthorn, a fantastic hawthorn there. But an ash growing on the shore, and an alder with a holly growing in it. And these shoreline alders, with the rise and fall of the water, they have exposed roots, and there's roots growing over rocks, and some rather fantastic trees there. And holly growing out of a yew. Just to give you an idea, there's 943 yews been recorded. Most of them are about 500 years old or so. So one of the greatest concentrations of old yews this side of Turkey, probably. And that's a full-size rowan growing in a yew tree at the bottom right. And there's a beech. Maybe it's one of Ted's bundle plantings, or maybe it's one tree, who knows. But yeah, we had a perfect day on Inchlaneg. Oh, and an interesting fungus I found on 2 sites in Scotland. This sort of black velvety fungus, Metacapnodium dinglei. After that, as if we had plenty of light, we just popped along to see the monster silver fir at our Kingless woodland garden. I don't normally pose in pictures, I'm purely there for scale. So it's heading into summer now. And I had to go and see my accountant in Torquay, which is on an industrial estate, and of course all the ground's been mixed up, and it's pretty low fertility soil to form banks and landscaping around the units there. But saw over 100 bee orchids I counted just in the grassland there, so that was rather nice to see. The central picture is a volucella, a migrant hoverfly on privet. And this is Batesian mimicry. It's basically adopting the colours of something which might sting you, but of course it doesn't actually have a sting itself. So it's trying to pretend it's scarier than it actually is. Top right is a Betula pendula youngii with a lovely top graft. And I also had to go and inspect some parks, caravan parks and what have you, and lodges in Devon as part of the David Bellamy Pledge for Nature. I do assessments for that. And and one site I visited in South Brent in Devon has some fantastic and rather rare trees, and I've rather loved this variegated sweet chestnut. And also in the course of inspections, a rose chafer feeding on bramble. Down from Burnham Beeches a bit later on, a lovely brimstone feeding on bramble, and you can see it's mimicking a leaf as a defence. A ringlet on beech. And this is a female broad-bodied chaser. This was the same place as I was when I was looking at the chestnut. And oh yes, Magnolia sieboldii. This is the Korean mountain magnolia, and yes, this exhibits protogeny. The female part of the flower develops first, and this is a mechanism for ensuring cross-pollination. And these are generally beetle-pollinated, and the flowers tend to hang downwards. But some beautiful oak apples, top right. Watched a really good webinar on galls recently, and yeah, within the galls you can have what they call inquilines, and these are squatters. These are other little wasps or insects that lay their eggs into the gall. So they don't stimulate the creation of the gall, but they just inhabit it. And then you get parasitoids, which then inject into the bodies of the larvae within the oak apple, and the larvae out. So there's all that going on, that whole world within an oak apple. And yes, trends, tree-related microhabitats. Here's a dunnock's nest in a sweet chestnut. Nut hatches use mud to get the hole the right size. And it's the jackdaw's nest from another sweet chestnut. And on the oak tree in the marshes, the buff-tip caterpillar, so plenty of food for the blue tits. And the River Devon I showed you earlier with the sand martins, and it's getting a bit warm now, so the cows are having to cool off in the river. And on top of an elder, there's a meadow pipit singing. So we're now heading into June, and I'm kind of on tour. So there's quite a lot of places in June. Of course, we've got lots of light, and so why wouldn't you? You know, we're not sitting in of an evening, you know, because it's dark at 4 o'clock. But this is an elm tree. Top pictures is an elm I found on Butte. So I was really pleased with that. Top two, top left and centre, a lovely regenerating wych elm, and top right a regenerating ash. So yeah, the ash in places isn't doing too bad. Bottom left, there's a real monster Cryptomeria japonica, and there's also an avenue of them in the bottom right, which is quite a nice avenue, very pyramidal shape, and of course they can be quite gnarly like the specimen on the left, but they can also, you know, if they're all the same clone type, can potentially be quite an architectural landscape feature. Another regenerating ash, so they're pretty good at it. And if you haven't been to the Isle of Bute, Mount Stewart is just the most out there, one of the most out there houses you can see. The amount of nature symbolism and detail in the Marquis of Bute's house is incredible. And here's just some of that symbolism of nature. And I rather like the bottom left picture where humans are sort of bowing down with the animals and being at one with the animals rather than seeking to necessarily dominate the show. That's quite nice. Top left is Mr. Truffles. He was only carved, I think that he was only carved in 1980. He was a cat that used to nick the workman's sandwiches, apparently, and the sort of boss for it to be carved into existed, and but it wasn't done until then. Bottom right, we've got a kind of a sort of Brigadoon type scene of a Highland cow. I don't know if that's the vet in there, but we've also got rowan and oak in there, so a lot of symbolism going on. And there's Mount Stewart House. If you ever get the chance to go there, that, and also Cardiff Castle is great as well. That's Marquis of Bute, and fantastic. The interior design is incredible. So in June, I had to travel down through Wales to Devon to do some work, and I had to inspect the yew on the right. Fantastic yew, 9 yews in this churchyard I had to inspect. As I headed towards Devon, I went over a bridge in Crickhowell, and I spotted these black poplars, the native black poplar. So I didn't know of these trees, but I didn't know where they were, but I just came upon them by chance. So obviously I had to go and stop and see those. Yes, so yes, the one on the right standing there, the bottom one is a phoenix tree. So that's Populus nigra petulifolia. And a lovely field maple, great for autumn colour, by the same river. So in Devon in June again, and this is from the site which had the collection of trees. This is we think this is Pinus patula, weeping Mexican pine. The top pictures, lovely orangey bark, nice foliage, a nice planting. Bottom left, we have the Branscombe walnut near Branscombe Beach in Devon, which is propped, as you can see. So we do have some stunning walnuts in this country, and that's one of the heritage trees of East Devon. Not so far away in Sidbury, we have a magnificent cork oak, and after we'd visited that one, we went to the pub on the right-hand side of the Red Lion for a well-earned pint. And not to leave Cornwall out, this is a wind-pruned asymmetric sycamore, duckpool near Bude. And bottom right, a Devon yew, which I hadn't seen, even though I've seen most of the yews in Devon, but you can always surprise yourself with something new on your doorstep. Yes, this is leaving Devon. I headed up to Buckinghamshire for the Biodiversity of Pollarded Trees Conference, and this 650-year-old named tree at the Vine in Hampshire. And I think there's looking to prop that one potentially to stop it collapsing altogether. But yes, Taplow Court, a fantastic conference in the summer with the Arbor Association, the Ancient Tree Forum, Corporation of London. The top pictures, Taplow Court was fantastic for cedars, lovely cedar avenue. Red kite sat on the one of the trees as we were getting ready for the conference, posing nicely, and found this weeping cedar planted by Churchill in 1938 as he reflected on the state of the world. Well, I wonder what you'd have to say now, but yeah, this is 1 year before the advent of World War II. So we were at Taplow Court for the conference, and fine trees there, very dry actually, a lot of heat when we were there. But then we went to Burnham Beeches for the field trips the next day. Some nice paintings by Dominique Mansion, a French artist. Some of the wonderful trees of Burnham Beeches. Some propping of a tree of fantastic form, but there's all manner of forms. And lots of wood ants. Lots and lots of wood ants. So yeah, the wonderful Burnham Beeches. So we go to July, and I'm sort of Daniel Dagfeld from Tredmestana, Stockholm tree surgery and consultancy firm, an old friend, came back with me to Scotland, and we headed over to Skye for a couple of nights camping. Daniel was going off to do a half marathon in the Outer Hebrides, but we decided to do an assault on the black cullens. You can see them on the right there, to try and get up the ridge there. But with neuropathy in my feet from the chemo, I didn't think it was advisable for myself to. I got to the base of the rocky bit, but which I thought was quite good, but I was slowing them up a bit, and I thought I'd immerse myself in the landscape rather than conquering it in a kind of Nan Shepherd living mountain sort of a way. So I stopped off this little oasis. I mean, this is sort of peat bog ecology, and yeah, there's these fantastic little oasis I found. There's been quite a lot of browsing by deer and sheep, I think, so there should perhaps be more trees in this landscape. But this is this lovely little garden. You can see the rowan in the middle picture, the little red admiral there. Some of the plants, top right you've got Alchemilla alpina, and then far right you've got butterwort, a carnivorous plant, and then bog asphodel down below. But I was particularly tree-wise interested to see there were some aspens growing, not the big tall aspens you might see in some places, but quite stunted, growing amongst the heather there. Some fine lichens. And the oblong sundew, there's both oblong and round-leaf sundew there, another carnivorous plant. A back view of the black cullens, fantastic mountain range. And a wee seedling of aspen, which is quite encouraging. One of the big problems for our poplars is that being dioecious, you don't always have enough females, you know, to produce viable seedlings. So we're now getting into July, and it's high summer in the Scottish borders. So I visited Marchmont House, which is it's there's an arts foundation. There's a bit of a story there, but I wanted to show you Stonecracker, This is a massive rock. They drilled a hole in it and lowered it over. They must have tied the branches together. But they planted the oak tree and lowered this rock over it. And the idea is that the tree will crack the rock in 100 years' time. I think it might just distort over the top of it, but time will tell. Picture 2 is a lovely regenerating lime, much as you saw the oak earlier. You know, tree failure. Did anyone ask the trees? Well, this one doesn't seem to accept failure. Number 3, that looks like it's an old bit of wood, but this is actually black butt. It's a bronze patinated black sculpture by David Nash. So there's a bit of a sculpture part there, an arts foundation. And I've put the link up for the Charles Paulson artwork. You can see all the bit about how it was sort of installed there. But on another visit to the borders, on the right-hand side, you can see the Posso sycamores. These are growing in farmland. I did ask the farmer for permission to go and visit, which he did much appreciate. So if you ever want to visit them, do knock on his door and ask, because it is a farmed landscape there. Even though you've got a right to roam, it's just polite. But 2 fantastic sycamores, and one of them is the biggest sycamore in Britain, the top one, but the other one's not too shabby either. And there's ruins of an old tower, and there's some other sycamores growing up the way. So some nice little grouping of sycamores and some really special heritage trees in Scotland there. So July, Aaron's visiting me. I took him to see a couple of old Rowans by the Drovers Road. He sat up there on the sycamore at Castle Campbell in Dollar. And we went down the River Devon to have a look at the sand martins, and we were really lucky. An osprey just flew by low down as we were there. That's Aaron's picture. So we also, on a little tour through the nearby Dollar Glen, we found some Lytoporas, some little flies on it. I don't know if those are fungus gnats, but perhaps potentially the fungus is a habitat for them. I don't know. And August. So, tales from the north. Yes, some in Cumbria and the Northern Pennines inspecting caravan parks. Top right is one of the most fantastic ashes I've seen. I mean, if you were going to choose a veteran ash, you know, I mean, that's just so good, isn't it? You can see it's hollow. It was 30 degrees actually in the Lake Districts, which is not usual. Another park, there was a named tree, number 1, the Usrig Oak. And number 4, this is Northern Pennines, Kirkby Stephen. I looked it up, and it's actually called the Wharton Hall Oak. But the owner of the park told me about it. So he said, "Oh, you must see this one. It's not on the park, but you must go and see it." And as I was stopping overnight, I went to see it. And she said, well, during the COVID times, she used to walk to it with the children, and they go inside, and it's a hollow old oak tree, and it's where the wizards had their meetings, their secret meetings. So they called it the wizard tree, which I rather liked. And on the way back to Scotland, I had to pop in and having discussions about the Beltingham yew, which you can see has got a sort of metal corset on here. And there's sort of debates on whether it's going to restrict the cambium of the tree or whether it's not, and whether it should be propped and whether the metalwork should be removed. So some debates about that rather special tree. But some fine trees in the Lake District. Oh, and number 4, you can see that there's old strip lichens there from old ploughing. That's ancient ploughing to the right of the tree. And already the round berries are proving attractive to the song thrush. And that's the Usrig Oak again. This is actually going to be fenced off, I believe, because it's in a high usage zone. It's a special tree. There's beefsteak fungus hollowing it out. There's Lytoporas on a branch, so maybe they'll just shorten that one a bit to reduce risk of failure. You know, when the park's occupied. That's the Beltingham yew. A bit more detail of the jewellery. And September, went to visit our son in Toronto. Some fantastic murals of living with nature, a city within a park. So this is all about urban forestry. I was, visiting my son. Toronto doesn't have a lot of ancient trees like we have in Britain. However, there were some good tree stories. So love the murals. But it is a city of trees. And I came across this quote: "Indeed, in its need for variety and acceptance of randomness, a flourishing natural ecosystem is more like a city than a plantation. Perhaps it will be the city that reawakens our understanding and appreciation of nature in all its teeming, unpredictable complexity." So this is Jane Jacobs. She also wrote a piece in 1961 called "The Death and Life of Great American City." So she's quite a commentator on urban development. But you can see Toronto is quite a green city. There's good tree protection. They plant trees and tow away vehicles to get in the way. That's a cormorant near the CN Tower. And a lot of street trees. It's quite humid there. It's quite hot. 29 degrees in September, so it get pretty warm. It's really cold in the winter. This is Gladitsia sunburst, a sort of thornless Gladitsia, which is quite widely planted, but a lot of street trees. And they seem to tolerate large trees in small gardens, which is quite nice, quite refreshing. We're not so tolerant, perhaps, in the UK. This is a big silver maple. This particularly interested me. This is Biedesiger Park. This is a 1.6 billion rewilding scheme. And this is what we call ecological reconciliation. This is reimagining human-dominated landscapes. It's not trying to restore it, it's reimagining it. So it's almost a perfect imagining of the ground flora, the shrubs, and the canopy. So this kind of a sort of ecological landscape. There's a great egret there, some black cherries on the right, and they actually put the wiggle back in the river in the Portlands and create this fantastic park. This was originally full of landfill, typhoid infected mattresses and construction waste, and that was all dealt with properly. They even planted dead trees into the landscape as well. So this would be quite fantastic in the summer when there's full of insects and birds, and they put in swallow nest boxes for a type of hole nesting swallow they get there. They planted native trees here. There is a park with a parky bit with some more ornamental trees as well, but a fantastic project. And here, yes, this is dead trees planted into the landscape to create the habitat and the naturalness. So Toronto, 17% is ravines, and they're about 30 times the area of Central Park, the green lungs of Toronto. So just a few shots here, some tree-related microhabitats on the right. This is further up the Don River, which feeds the park that you saw just now. Bottom right, we've got some tracks on the raccoon, being down at the water, the old trash panda as they're known. And the sumac trees are just starting to colour up. Another good tree story in Toronto was the black oak savanna, Quercus velutina. There's only 1% of this left. There's a nice bit in Hyde Park. So we've got some nice trends there, tree-related microhabitats. A dog-day cicada down below. Wood ducks, these have claws rather than sort of webbed feet. They're a hole nesting duck, a very handsome duck. The great blue heron. And we also get a migratory woodpecker, the northern flicker. Chipmunks, squirrel drays. And that's the American red squirrel, not a grey squirrel, but an American red squirrel. It looks a bit different to our one. And just to be a bit cheeky, flags and migrants have been hitting the headlines, but I thought I'd do something on that. So we've got the maple leaf here, which is a flag which is it's a bit more of a neutral type of flag with not so many violent connotations as some older flags, perhaps. I thought I'd feature on the old sugar maple and its colour and its being a national emblem. quite an inclusive one. And the migrants were the monarch butterflies. Loads of those flying around, which was nice to see. These are the super monarchs. They live longer and fly further because the monarch breeds its way north in an ecological relay, and then it has to go back to Mexico, to the wintering grounds. So the last lot have to fly all the way back, so 3,000 miles. So October, I had to go and speak at a conference in Shropshire on yews with Caring for God's Acre. I also had to pick up some trees from the garden from Frank Matthews' nursery. Other nurseries are available, Bartram's, Hilliers, but that's one I had to go to get some trees I wanted for the garden. But on the way, the light was really hitting the orchards nicely, so I thought I'd include some apples. Infested with mistletoe. Tenbury Wells is the mistletoe capital. That's where the big mistletoe markets are. They have to remove it because it just gets too heavy for the trees and blocks the apple leaves from photosynthesizing, all that stuff. Yeah, while I was collecting the trees, I think there's a Rowan autumn spire, looked rather a nice choice for a garden. Some lovely fastigia crab apples. So while I was in Shropshire, I went out with Harriet, who's the director of Caring for God's Acre, and we just did a little Shropshire safari. The weather wasn't fantastic. We did okay. So I was going to see a historical oak tree, and I came across this collapsed old mulberry in a field near a manor house, and possibly one of the James I plantings. And you can see it sort of collapsed, but that's what mulberries do. On the far right, you can see that it's probably rooted in and layered itself, and then it's sending up new stems. So fantastic mulberry. I went to see the Lidham oak. It's had a bit of a haircut. Maybe you might not necessarily print it like that by choice, but it seems to be responding quite well. I won't get into the politics of that one. Lots of whiskery epicormics on it. And Rob McBride turned up at the conference. So thanks, Rob, for the Hardwick oak. Lovely tree. And these are the Linley beeches. This is a sort of landscape feature, and you've probably got you've got a whole host of different trends in these. A rather nice sort of beach avenue going up a hillside. And the stiper stones, yes, the ancient hollies of the stiper stones up in the Shropshire Hills. Yeah, fenced off maybe the sheep was nibbling the bark, I don't know. Trouble is, what's happens now, you get too much bracken growing in the enclosures. But there's one on its own, so you can enjoy the form of the tree. So these ancient hollies, and in the background, that's probably remains of an extinct volcano, an ancient volcano. Lovely old veteran rowan. And yes, this is the Doverstone Weeping Yew. And yes, this is the oldest surviving cultivar of the Doverstone yew. It's a type of weeping yew tree. And apparently it has one female branch. So autumn, inspecting trees in Devon, and top left there's a rather interesting graft just to the right of the trunk. I don't know whether it's growing down or growing up and grafted, but anyway, rather nice. The red squirrel is feeding on Sitka spruce cones. They have quite a varied diet, and they're not going to turn their noses up to a nice bit of Sitka. A kind of rather lovely formation of a sort of pie crust branch socket on an old sycamore. Some sulphur tuft down on bottom left, mistletoe, and by Loch Lomond, a phoenix, a willow that's just tipped over and adopted a more stable structure, really. A Devon buzzard. This one was sat on a post at a lunch, and it sat on this post. It kept diving down into the grass looking for worms or something. And this is a sort of a Dartmoor root plate, and clearly there was an old stone there, but quite a nice portal there, nice window in the root plate. And of course in Scotland we now have lots of geese overwintering. in the fields. This is a male goosander just below where the dart meet on Dartmoor, just below the confluence of the East Dart and the West Dart. And these are oyster mushrooms actually growing on a Greek fir at Scone Arboretum. So, November, nearly there. I hadn't been to Scone Palace for ages, and I've found this old postcard a while ago. The James VI Sycamore has lost the old Polyporus squamosus treatment, but it looks like they've done some sensitive pruning on this one, and it's still got a reasonable form. Being sycamore, it should survive okay. But another heritage tree of Scotland, which is has changed a little bit recently. But while I was at Scone, I also found a tree planted by Margaret Thatcher, would you believe? One of her better decisions, perhaps, in 1985. Also, the bell tree. Now, the bell tree was used for bringing out proclamations of new law. I don't think it was always on a tree, but it's on a tree now. So I think the bell's probably older than the tree. That's the bell tree. And a fantastic layering lime tree. And a white peacock. Now, November. Well, I had to include this one. This is a tree which I don't believe is recorded. It's probably the second largest sweet chestnut in Scotland. We've measured it at 9.2 meters. So we'll try and get it officially measured properly, but what a setting for it as well. What an incredible tree. And that's only 20 minutes from the house, and I didn't know about it until I was shown it recently by a woodworking friend of mine at Ockhills Woodcrafts. So now we're into December, so I'm just about on time, I think. So I thought I'd just mention Christmas trees. I always get a real tree. I got a Fraser fir. I looked it up. They're endangered in the wild, but so maybe we can. We got plenty we can supply back should they need them. But of course, as a Christmas tree plantation is short rotation, it's quite good for small mammals, which in turn is good for birds of prey. So there's kind of an ecological story to it. And bottom right is the Dunnock's nest, hedge sparrow, that I found in our tree when I dismantled it last year. We decorated it, didn't even know it was there until I dismantled it. So I thought it was an interesting story. And we do need to talk about the plastic wrapping though, and recycling facilities for that. So that's Christmas trees, as we're getting seasonal now. This is, I would go up for a cocktail at Glen Eagles near Christmas time, because they do a fantastic display of the enchanted Caledonian forest. They've got the goose that lays the golden eggs just near the entrance there, and they've got some sparkly giant fungi. We love those. And yeah, before I finish off, I just wanted, if you remember the Leonardo da Vinci quote about everything being connected at the beginning, I wanted to finish with this one. Because what we do on the land, affects what happens at sea. The bottom left picture is the Bass Rock, the largest northern gannet tree in the world. The gannets on the right are, two which were picked up by the boatman when I was on St Kilda on Herta. And we rescued the top right one. Sadly, the bottom right one died entangled in plastic strapping. So a sad story there, but I thought this quote was a good one to just tie in from the beginning. For once you really see, you cannot unsee. You see the beauty and destruction, the joy and the tragedy of life around you, and you fall in love. And once you're in love, there is nothing you wouldn't do to protect this fragile, extraordinary world. And that comes from Nature's Last Dance. So, the winter solstice, there's the Holly King, and soon to be deposed by the Oak King. And shortly, we'll be having What is Your Favourite Tree-related book, after a few questions, hopefully. And here's my personal librarian, Coco the cat. So thank you very much. There we go.
Marvelous, thank you, mate. So we've gone past 7:30. There's we haven't got too many questions because it was more a sort of sit back and enjoy kind of thing. But there's one big question I'm going to ask that Paul has asked, which is, what has been the most impactful or profound moment or thought you've had this year?
Well, that's a very profound question, isn't it? Really, I don't know.
Isn't it?
Yeah. I don't know. Profound thought. Well. I mean, of course, the trees that I'm saying. I mean, I've been fortunate to share these with people, and some I've enjoyed in solitude. So then you get a chance to ponder your existence and what have you. But yeah, it's great to share the trees. That's the whole point of it. You know, there's always another tree, and it's great to share the trees with other people and their enjoyment of them. I think that's one of the great points, really, enjoying trees with people. Will that do?
Well, that's a very nice answer. I think that'll definitely do. If it doesn't, then sodom. I think it's a very, very nice answer. One thing I'll just comment on before we do move on to our big question. Someone said, will it be available afterwards? The first one, the Green Legacy Hiroshima, the extended edition, will be available on YouTube afterwards. Chris's won't be available on YouTube afterwards. That's right, Chris, isn't it? We're not going. This is a one-time only affair. This one.
Well, this is it. You just got to turn up, or turn up or don't. Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, there's a lot of original stuff in there, and I have had the odd thing lifted in the past from giving stuff away and whatever, and then you find it turning up and someone's subscribed journal thingies, So yeah. So I don't generally, because I do take a bit of a graphic design approach to it, really. Yeah, and you never know, I might get around to writing a book. Yeah,
it's the book we're waiting for, Chris. I've just got to try and get my book done before your book gets done, because yours will be better than mine.
It takes a while sometimes, doesn't it? I think John Stokes took 4 years to do his Trees of Britain and Ireland, so he's not doing too badly.
I think I'm on about 8 years at the moment. Yeah. Good. So so this one won't be available on afterwards, but you have to watch it to see. So there we go. Well, do you know what? I think we just over the hour and a half, and I definitely need a nap. So I'm just going to move on to the big one, Chris, because you've always got some good answers for this. Chris, this year, I should say, because you've got a few of these, but this year, what is your favourite tree-related book, Chris?
Well, and this goes with the theme of what it all ties in, but I've just got this one, the Almanac, a seasonal guide to 2026. Yeah. So it's got all your tide times, your moon phases, your festivals, and this year is particularly themed on trees. So that's quite a nice one. But apart from that, another one I've got on the table to read is the Witch's Forest from Q, which is sort of tree folklore and stuff. So
I'm going to put these in the chat.
Yeah.
Oh, I've tried to put it in the chat, but I've hit capitals now. It's all going wrong. The Witch's Forest and the Almanac. And I like the fact that the Almanac is tree-related next year.
Yeah. So
I'm putting them in the chat. There we go.
Yeah, well, it's always nice to do the Christmas special. I mean, maybe someone else would like to do their Year Among the Trees next December. But if not, I've already got plans for Shetland, India and Stockholm next year. So, and I'll try and edit it a bit more. The only reason it's not well edited is because I had so much wonder to share with you all. And I just wanted to share it. But I know I should have edited and kept it smaller. But somehow I got through it.
It was perfectly edited and perfectly put together, and it took almost exactly an hour, which is exactly what you said it was going to do. And you could have gone on for longer; it wouldn't have been a problem. And we did check, and we talked before. Your wonderful picture of your librarian. We did confirm that the cat made its own way up to the bookshelf. You didn't sort of wedge the cat in the bookshelf for the photo opportunity. So no cats got harmed in the making of that image.
No, it wasn't staged. It was a totally natural one. I think she was selecting Charles Hill's book on trees. Charles Hill was Ted's GP. and he wrote a book called For the Love of Trees. But she's got a paw on that one, you know, so that's what she selected, you know. So
Charles Hill was Ted's GP and wrote a book about trees.
yeah, called For the Love of Trees. I've got it on the bookshelf there.
How didn't I know that? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, look, Chris, that was brilliant. Thank you so much. That really was brilliant, and beautiful images as always. And it was a fascinating journey through your year with trees. And I think that is a nice idea to have, whether it's you or someone doing their year through trees. I think that's a great idea. So thank you very much indeed, Chris. Thank you again to Nassrine and colleagues for the wonderful presentation about Green Legacy Hiroshima. As I've said, we have got a couple of weeks off now for Christmas and New Year. We will be back on January the 7th. There will be a webinar for you to register to within just a couple of days. I almost promise you it'll definitely happen. We just need to get something out there so you can sign up to it. And then they'll be running through until I think it's the end of February they're scheduled for this year. So please do come back and see us again in January. But apart from that, Chris, thank you so much. And to Chris and to all of you, have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, whatever it is you're doing with yourselves. Enjoy it, relax, enjoy the trees, and I very much look forward to seeing you in the new year. So thank you all so much. Good night.
Thanks, John. Merry Christmas, everyone.